do not move to Florida
without doing this first. And this applies to where we live, Venice, Florida, but really anywhere
in Florida. Yes.
The entire Florida area. Let's get started.
First things first, if you are looking to move to Florida, make sure to call, text, or email me. I'm a local realtor in the Venice, Sarasota area. My information will be in the description box below.
She hears from people every day. She loves it. We love it. I love it. So let's talk about, so this is something she's encountered, and this is why we wanted to make this video. A couple of videos we're actually making about, like, before you like put all your eggs into the Florida basket, don't just jump in. A lot of people just want to jump in, and I think that's a mistake. We've seen this firsthand, and it kind of breaks our heart, and it's kind of a waste of her time, waste of your time. You might lose some money on it, and yeah, it's a mess.
Yes. With our videos, people see, you know, our area and they fall in love with the area. Not only our videos, because there is a lot of other people, YouTubers that are making videos about the area. So people look at our videos and they're like, oh my gosh, this city is beautiful. I want to live there. And yes, it is, in our humble opinion anyway. And a lot of people do fall in love with the area, but then once they come here and visit, they realize, okay, this is not for me.
And there's a lot of reasons that could be, which is kind of what we're going to go into in this video.
So we've had people come to the area and visit, meet up with us, go look at properties. Then they realize that this is not like the city where they want to be. And there's a lot of factors that play into that. It could be traffic. For a lot of people, Venice is just like, holy cow, it's crazy, which is kind of funny because like
I don't think it's that bad.
It's not.
It just depends on where we've got traffic videos on the channel, and then people will be like, compared to LA, compared to New Jersey, this is a breeze.
Yes.
But then if you're like from a rural area, then yeah, it might seem like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad, or at least we're used to it now. We have some people who are like, oh no, like this is too much. And then we have people who are like, oh yeah, no, this is not bad at all. Like this is like a lot slower than where I'm from. So it just really depends where you're from.
And before we get too much further into some of the other reasons, I just want to share a couple details as far as like some of the people, like some people decided that they wanted to move here and then they came and they're like, okay, no. And that's probably an okay thing. That's probably what you should do. But then there's been some people who like, well, we'll put our house on the market wherever they live, which is usually a different state, and we're going to move there. We've already decided, and they've never even been here. And then they find out they don't want to be here. And now it's like their house sold way faster than they thought because of how crazy the market is. So, I mean, that's kind of the main reason for us giving you some of these reasons to save you that headache or issue or loss of money or having to buy another house in the city that you lived in to begin with for no reason.
Yeah, and also the first thing when I talk to people on the phone, when they're like, oh yeah, like we're looking to put our house on the market, we want to move there, I want you to help me. The first thing I always tell them is, have you spoken to a local realtor in your area? Because I know for a fact that every property that goes on the market right now, it doesn't matter, it's not just a Florida thing, it's a whole USA thing. So if you put your house on the market, that house is going to sell very, very quickly. If you don't know anyone, I can refer you to a good realtor in your area. So make sure to talk to them first, ask them like, how long do you think my house is going to be on the market before I need to move? Because yeah, you don't want to be in that situation where you sold your house and now you don't have anywhere to go,
or you find something fast and you don't even know if you want to be here for sure.
Exactly. So yes, and yeah, the first thing I would say, even without thinking about selling, or if you are thinking about selling and moving to Florida, the first thing I would say is go visit the area. Go, if you want to move to Venice, go visit Venice. If you want to move to the Sarasota area, go to Sarasota area. Like, you don't want to just put your house on the market, watching our videos or any other videos about Venice, and you think you're gonna love it, and then you come here and it's like, oh no, this is not for me.
And something to think about is, it's not uncommon in this market for you to put your house on the market and it sells that day.
Within hours.
So,
and this is not just in Florida, this is everywhere.
Yeah. The biggest thing and the most important thing you should do before making the move to Florida is visit. But within that, look at some of these things we're going to be covering, but visit in person, because again, we try to cover as much as we can for like the Venice, Sarasota, Northport, all those areas, Inglewood, and show you these things as much as we can. You can't get the full sense of it watching a video, because when you watch a video, you're relaxed. You're not in the situation, if that makes sense, like driving or trying to figure out some of these other things.
Or even little things like finding a parking spot. For us here in Venice, it's really easy in the summer to find a parking spot. There is no one here.
Yeah.
But in winter, it's like, holy cow, like we cannot find a parking spot. Like if we go to the beach or if we go to the downtown, like it takes us a little bit longer to find a parking spot. So if you're visiting in summer, it's not the same as when you're visiting, you know, during winter when all the snowbirds are here. And also, another thing to keep in mind is that summers are hot. So you're visiting here in November, December, you know, when it's like so nice, and especially coming from up north, it's like, oh my gosh, it's great, right?
It's amazing.
And then you come here in the summer and it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this.
I love it, but we'll link in the description below. We do have videos about the truth about summer in winter, or summer in Florida and winter in Florida. We have separate videos for each. But again, if you can, ideally come visit for like 3 at least or 4 days in the winter and in the summer so you can get the full experience. But yeah, that's gonna maybe change your perspective. You know, some people like buy a house here and they've only been here in the winter, and they move in the winter and it's great. And by the time summer rolls around, they're like, I think we're moving out.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about.
Yes.
So when you do make the visit, and one thing you can kind of research before you get there to kind of narrow it down is areas. So maybe you kind of know, okay, I want to be on the Gulf Coast, or even better, 1, 2, maybe 3 different cities that you're interested in. And you want to get an understanding of some of the different neighborhoods, different areas, what are maybe good areas, maybe not so good areas, what areas are a fit for you, because everyone has different preferences. So I think that's one important thing to look into when you research beforehand and when you come in person, and a good realtor can help you with a lot of that as well.
And research not only, like in Venice, our most popular area is Venice Island, what's known as the island. So most people, when they come to Venice, that's where they go, which is like the downtown, the beach. So it's all great, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But most people don't live on Venice Island because it's very pricey. You know, if you don't have a budget of over $1 million, you're not going to be on Venice Island. There are options, but then with a condo, you do have to consider the HOA fees, which typically are a little bit higher the closer you get to the water, just because they're going to include insurance and all that stuff. So for most people, where they are going to end up moving is like South Venice, Venice Gardens, maybe even the Welland Park area, which is technically in between Northport and Venice. You do want to explore those areas, not just come here and go to the downtown, go to the island, because that's probably not where you're going to live. You might find yourself, you know, like hanging out there a lot like we do, but we don't live on the island.
And that's not something that's exclusive to Venice. I mean, that's all of Florida.
Everywhere,
you're going to have your more desirable areas, and you might picture yourself living there and it'd be great. But if you're not willing to pay the price, or don't have the ability to pay the price of what it costs to be by the downtown or by the beach or whatever that looks like, you know, whatever city it is and the things you want to be by, chances are a lot of other people want to be by there too, and therefore the prices come up.
Yes.
So it's good to have an understanding of the areas for that as well. Also, just another thing, from city to city, there's going to be changes in what kind of a house you're going to get, how many bedrooms are even available in that city. So, you know, Venice doesn't have a lot of 4-bedroom places. What's the price points of a 3-bedroom place in one city versus the other? And that's something you're going to want to look into as well, because again, maybe you want to be in, oh, this is the city I'm going to live in, it's perfect, but can you afford it and get what you want? There's a lot of dynamics, and again, visiting in person can help with that.
One thing to think about on that tangent too is, if you're open to like a condo, you might be able to find something like near the downtown, like for example in Venice would be on the island. Just keep an open mind, because a lot of times our condos or townhomes, they'll be a little bit older, maybe some remodeled here and there, but then that increases the price. But more likely than that, our condos are a little bit older, a little bit dated. And then for homes also on Venice Island, you could potentially find a home for like $500,000, maybe a little bit more, but that home's gonna be pretty small.
Yeah, and again, this is gonna apply to all of Florida, you know what I mean? Like in the area like that you want to be, maybe you can't afford a freestanding house, but maybe a townhome, which feels kind of like a house, is an option, or a condo or a villa. So it's something to think about, you know, with that price, that all that dynamic, where you want to be. If you're open to different options and have flexibility, then, you know, you can maybe get more of that Florida life that you were looking for and it could maybe work out okay for you. Next thing to think about is jobs. I mean, if you're going to move to an entirely different state, it's probably one of the first things that I'm sure you're worried about. So it's something that you have to be aware of, the different economy, I guess you could say, that we have in Florida. It's more tourist driven. Not everywhere, I would say, but some of those things that are borderline tourist, you know, your restaurants, shopping isn't as tourist, I guess, but there is some touristy type shops and things too. So the majority of the jobs down here are going to be more geared towards that. You don't see a lot of trucking companies. You don't see a lot of manufacturing, you know, and factory type work. There are some Amazon warehouses.
Yeah, healthcare and more service type jobs. But yeah, if that's not, you know, something you'd want to do, then you really need to think about, do you really want to move to Florida?
And two other things that actually spring to mind, because you hear a lot of people in Facebook groups and stuff say the only people that can actually afford to live in Florida or get ahead in Florida are entrepreneurs. If you have your own business, so maybe for an entrepreneur, this could be, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for that because it is a great area to, you know, people are looking to come visit. That's an opportunity. And then if you have anything that's maybe, you know, you have your own online based business or you work for a company where you can work remotely, those are options as well that could be very doable for Florida.
Another thing is traffic. Traffic in Florida, it's very, very different depending on what area of Florida you are. So like if you're in Miami, Orlando, those areas will be a lot crazier than if you're like in Southwest Florida, like near Venice or Englewood. The traffic is it's still a little bit congested, but it's not as bad, like it's not as aggressive as the bigger cities.
Another thing I want to note with that is generally we visited a lot of different parts of Florida, Atlantic coast, Central Florida. I would say it seems like as the more inland you get, it gets a little more rural and less hectic. Northport, I would say, fits along those lines. Arcadia, you know, there's a lot of different cities outside of the bigger ones, of course, like Orlando, Gainesville to some degree. Even that seems pretty light. So as you get to the coasts, especially during the winter months, that's where like the main roads are faster moving. You know, there's more 45-mile-an-hour traffic throughout the city. If that's something you're not used to, that you have to consider. And then once you get off those main roads, then it's a little quieter. But generally, yeah, more 3 lanes, more 45 miles an hour, and long stoplights. Like,
yes.
That was one difference we noticed from Wisconsin, that you could sit at a stoplight for like what felt like an eternity. So there's that. Next thing you want to consider when you visit to an area, and again, there's some ways you can do this before coming in person. You can maybe join some Facebook groups and things like that to get an understanding of people, but Facebook groups maybe aren't always the best representation of the people because you tend to get people that are really happy or really upset or grumpy.
And especially right now, because we have so many people moving to Florida, there is a lot of people out there that are like, don't move to Florida, it's really bad. Don't move to Florida, we're full. Don't move to Florida, alligators are everywhere.
Bugs,
roaches are everywhere. Like they're trying to make Florida look really, really bad because they don't want other people to move to the area. And that's very unfortunate because most people who live in Florida are not from Florida.
Yeah, and there's a very interesting dynamic to that. We will cover that in a future video. Leave a comment if you want to hear more about the dynamic of why people are telling people not to move to Florida, but it's something we're probably going to talk about regardless, just because
it's happening.
It's a very real thing, and there are some very real reasons that I understand why people are doing it. With that being said, I mean, one reason you would want to come to Florida, and I think you're going to get a better sense in person than online, because online people would say and do things that they probably wouldn't in person, or the vocal minority tends to go online and shout from the mountaintops. But if you can get to the place in person, again, from city to city, there's going to be different people, different culture, different, you know, things along those lines. Miami's going to be very different than, say, Venice, or Sarasota is going to be different than Venice. Your Tampa's, your Orlando is going to be a little bit more multicultural, you know, so it just depends. And then you got some areas that are going to more that old Florida that feels a little bit more like southern type culture, whereas the more multicultural ones just feel like, I don't know how to explain it, just tropical?
Tropical, like not like you're in a different country, but almost just because you have like all this fusion of people and foods.
And within each city too, not just as far as like having different cultures as far as ethnicity, but just the overall vibes and the feels of the city. Some are going to be slower, some are going to have really friendly people, like Venice, extremely friendly. Some are going to be a little bit more faster moving. So it just depends on what you're looking for. And again, as a whole, I would say Florida, there is a difference from the rest of the country.
Yes.
We have noticed a difference in the way people are. It's a little bit slower pace. People aren't always the best at getting back to you, even if like they have a company that does a certain thing and you're trying to schedule something. Sometimes you just won't hear back, or it takes them a while.
Or they'll actually schedule the appointment and then they just won't show up.
Yeah, so like those are some like little differences that you have to be aware of, and some of it you can kind of get an understanding from coming in person and talking to some people, asking them about other people and about what it's like living here, and just getting a feel for the actual people you're talking to.
Yes, and also keep in mind that if you're like in a retiree area, like we're in a retiree area, so people tend to be more friendly because, you know, who's gonna be more friendly than someone who's just gonna probably just lay on the beach pretty much all day.
Yeah.
You know, like you're retired, so you're just literally just enjoying life. While if you're more like in Orlando or Miami, people are like on the go because they have things to do, they have work to go to, school, whatever the case might be, so they might not be as friendly. Not that they're bad people by any means, but they're just not in that state of mind where it's like, you know, everything's just fun and nice because you're out enjoying life and not having to work.
And you just made me think of something to consider that we talked about previously as far as jobs, and we didn't really talk about schools and kids and families. Those are other things you want to consider. Some of the bigger cities will have some more job opportunities, like Orlando, Fort Myers, Miami, Tampa. There's going to be more like...
Even like Sarasota.
Yeah, office type, you know, or other types of work outside of the service industry or tourism industry. And then as far as families go too, you know, with the people and the school systems, all those things kind of go into what kind of a city is going to be good for families. So that's another thing you want to look into. And again, coming to visit can kind of give you a sense, is there kids playing out in the neighborhood? Are there parks for them to go to? Things like that.
If you want to move to like a bigger city, maybe don't look at the city as a whole for like school grades. You can go into each county separately and then you can make your decision from there, like which county has the best school. Next one. Shopping. I feel like it's a big deal for a lot of people.
Important, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
You do want to be somewhat close to a shopping area, whether that's grocery shopping, which that's very important, I would say, grocery shopping, or just like a mall or an outlet mall, department shopping. If that's important to you, maybe looking into the areas with more things to do would be a great idea.
Yeah, I'd say Florida as a whole, it does seem like it's better than most of the country, that at least that I've been to, outside of maybe California and New York, as far as having a lot of stores just about anywhere you go, just about any city. The one exception I would say is there are some like cities that are like small and starting to grow and they don't have a lot yet. Mm-hmm. Like I remember Northport was kind of this way like 5-10 years, well, maybe not 5, about 10 years ago. We were kind of interested into it and looking into it, and it was like, well, there wasn't really much there, and now there's a lot of stuff there. So, you know, sometimes the amenities of shopping that you might want might be kind of lagging behind, but I feel like Florida as a whole is very good as far as getting a lot of shopping and keeping it around.
Yes, basically if they start, you know, like a subdivision, there is going to be a shopping area near that subdivision. So if, you know, there is a lot of development going on, more likely than not, there is going to be a shopping, a Publix.
Yeah, that makes me think exactly of a video that we'll be doing soon on Welland Park.
Yes.
Like they're building all these gated communities, and right now there's this huge plot of land that they're clearing out to build like a downtown, and there's already a grocery store there. And so if you build it, they will come. And by build it, we mean housing. The shopping comes. Yeah.
Yes. If you're looking to move to the area, make sure to call, text, or email me. I am a realtor in the Venice Florida area. I'll have my information in the description box below.
If you want to learn more about moving to Florida, check out this playlist right here. Subscribe, turn on all notifications, hit all the buttons below, and live breezy.